Today's video is a Make Up Your Mind video. So if you guys are new, Make Up Your Mind is basically created to help me decide whether I want to pick up a brand new palette. Now I figure that a lot of people at this point, if you guys are really into makeup, you're starting to realize that buying and buying and buying a lot of palettes, after a while it just becomes a little bit too much. Like you kind of feel overwhelmed with too many eyeshadow palettes. I started feeling that way, and doing Make Up Your Mind has kind of really opened my eyes to thinking of eyeshadow palettes in a different way, thinking of them as colors and trying to figure out if things are necessary in my collection, or also if the color story is something that I'm actually gonna wear. So if it's worth it to me to pick up a whole palette, if the color story is not something that I'm really going to gravitate to. So in this one, we're going to be diving into one that I know a lot of you guys requested that I would do it, and I said, you know what, let me do it. At first, the palette caught my attention, and then I kind of looked at it a little bit longer and I was like, is this really something I would want? And then I kind of like just said, you know what, if a lot of people really want this, I really want to check it out. So this is from Kylie Cosmetics, and it's the Kendall by Kylie collection. It's a brand new palette. It's supposed to be a collaboration between the two Kardashian sisters or Jenner sisters, Kylie and Kendall. It's a collab between the two of them, and it's retailing for $42 US, and it's sold right now on the Kylie Cosmetics website. So you guys really wanted me to do this one, and I decided, you know what, let's pull out my collection. Let's see how unique this palette is for me and whether it's something that I would use and something I would want to pick up. So I did do my Insta challenge this week and I posted this photo, and I am so shocked with how many of you guys guessed this palette like so quickly that I was actually pretty shocked, because I didn't really think that this palette had so much reach, like that many people were interested in it, but a lot of you guys guessed this palette. So that is pretty cool. If you guys want to get featured in my next Make Up Your Mind video, don't forget to follow me over on Instagram at Christina Brooke Beauty. Wait for me to post the photo that shows some swatches, and you just have to comment on which palette you think I'm gonna mimic. And if you comment it right, I will probably put your name up on my next Make Up Your Mind. So anyways, let's go ahead and let's get into it right now. So the first thing I always do is I show you guys the results. I always think that it's important for me to show you guys this in the beginning of the video so that you guys can see what we're working with. So you can see how close I was to the actual palette. So the swatches that I'm actually using are from Trend Mood 1 on Instagram. I felt like they were the most true to color. I kind of looked at other swatches, and on Kylie's website, they're no longer like actually putting hand swatches. I saw like, you know, like crumbled up makeup swatches, and I just, no. I wanted to see them on an arm, and I feel like the Trend Mood one looks pretty similar to maybe what the palette is going to look like. So I did jump into my collection, and I had to use a couple different palettes. I will say there's portions of this that are unique in the sense that you wouldn't think that these colors would be together, and then there's portions of this that I was kind of like, huh, there's some inspiration by another palette from a Kardashian sister, which I will show you guys as we get into it. So let me show you the palettes that I had to use. So I jumped into the Sephora Pro, the Editorial. I did get one color from Huda Beauty's Emerald Obsession. Of course, the nude from Huda Beauty showed up. This is the Nude Light. Natasha Denona's Sunrise palette had, I think it was only two colors from there. The Jaclyn Hill palette also had a few colors. I will say Jaclyn Hill's palette is a contender for being the most used Make Up Your Mind palette so far. And also KKW Beauty and Mario palette. So yeah, those are the palettes that I jumped into, and let's go ahead and let's just start it off, and let's start with the first color. So for the first color, I was looking at this one and looking at the palette and looking at the swatch. I ended up saying that I think inside of the Sunrise palette, there's this color called Citrine. Citrine I've actually used a couple of times lately for this yellowy tone. And when it's swatched, it almost gives you like a yellowy orange. Now, when I was looking at the swatches, I felt like this yellow that they used didn't look like a yellow. It almost looked like a yellowy orange. So I'm guessing that it's similar to this one, and I will say, I've told you guys a million times, yellow, I don't know, yellow to me is like one of those shades in an eyeshadow palette that if you have one, fantastic. but it's not like the most flattering shade. I mean, I don't love to use yellow. I'll use it every once in a blue moon, but if I had a lot of palettes with yellow in it, it would just be a wasteful color for me because yellow is just yellow. I don't know, yellow. Ah. So the next one, I decided to jump into Sephora's Pro Editorial. Now, I would say this has been a very good buy for me palette. It literally shows up anytime that there's color involved because I just feel like they curated this pretty damn good to use a lot of colors that are very, I don't know, I guess used a lot when it comes to colorful palettes. So what I did was jump into this color right here. It's this really nice orange. This is like the perfect orange shade. It looks just like the swatch. Like, I don't know. Even if they're off by a little bit, I mean, like, it's orange, and really, like, how different can it be? It's not like a red orange. It's not like one of those oranges that, like, really can show a difference. Like, this is more like a primary color orange. That's what it's looking like in the palette as well. And I feel like one primary color orange is good enough for me. And I think so far I'm like, like the color story, I mean, this doesn't look like Kendall Jenner to me. I mean, I don't know. I don't keep up with the Kardashians. I do like Kendall Jenner's Instagram for some of her fashion photos. And I don't know, she doesn't look to me like somebody who wears these colors. Am I wrong? I don't know. Just didn't seem like Kendall. Like, I thought like Kendall would have like a very soft, no makeup kind of palette, but anywho, for the next one, I also went into Pro and I grabbed this one right here. It's this lime color. So this lime color is what I have all over my lids. Now, I will say, I know that in her palette, she does have a glittery lime shadow, but guys, I've already noticed that these matte shades that have glitters in them, the glitters disappear. So if you want to do the same effect and probably even do it better, just get a glitter shadow like the ones in the Tati Beauty palette and just dab it on top and you'll have a lot more glitter than these glitter shadows give you. I've tried them so many different times, but if you try to blend them with a brush, the glitters are gone, like in almost every single one. Now, if you dab it on with your finger, it will stay there, but I mean, then you can't blend it. So I mean, I don't know, to me it's just not my style. I really wish I would find a formula of that type of product that it would stay good, but I don't think that this one's gonna do it for me either. And I mean, it's lime, I don't know. So far the color story is just not my color story. It's a cool one, but I kind of own it. So the next one is another color like that I tend to never grab, and I grabbed it and I got it inside a Sephora Pro, and it's this really nice purple color. This one looks almost the same too, guys. Like, I don't know, I was looking at it and I swatched it a couple different times. If the Kylie one is a little bit deeper, it may be, but this is another one of those like real purple colors. This is like Barney purple. It's cool to use, but I think if you have one palette like this palette, which I think has been really cool for me, it gives me all those looks that I could just jump in this one. It just reminds me of a very elementary school color story, like almost like crayons, but like highlighter crayons. You know what I mean? So for the next one is another very vibrant color. What I did was I jumped into this second color in the Pro and this color right here. I mixed them together. When you mix them together, you do create a very similar tone. I didn't want to kind of look through my collection for this exact color because I do feel like you can mix these two together and make this color. If you guys are like me, I tend to mix shadows a lot. Like, it's not abnormal for me to put on a pink and then be like, that's a little too pink, get a darker color and then mix them together and make it deeper. I do this all the time. It's not just for this video to match the colors. I typically do this. This is like stuff that I do a lot. So that color I have so far, like I said, the color story is like, so the next one I actually jumped away from the Pro because now we're getting into like a brownish color, and inside of Jaclyn Hill there is this color called Pukey which is the funniest name. It's this one right here. It's kind of like a brownish orange. I feel like this color matched pretty decent to the color that I see inside of the brand new Kylie Kendall palette. It looks similar. It's gonna do a similar effect. It goes with this color story, and you know, I still can't get on the board with the color story that I'm seeing so far. It's very 80s, like almost neon but not really neon. It's cool, just So the next one, I jumped into one of my favorite palettes, Sunrise, and I jumped into this color called Morgan right here. Morgan is one of my favorite colors in the Sunrise, but this one looks a little deeper, so just dabbing a little bit of Jasper on top, it deepens out Morgan. I do this actually when I want to use Morgan on the outer edge. Sometimes I'll jump in Jasper and just deepen out like the edge. The rest will be a little bit lighter, and then the edge I'll make a little deeper with some Jasper. So if you guys see the peekaboo color coming out, that is actually Morgan, so I did use Morgan also. If you guys are wondering, the look that I created would be a look that you can create if you purchase this new Kylie Kendall palette, because I use the colors that mimic it. So that color is actually a really pretty color. I love this color. I think it's very, very pretty. I like the deeper Morgan shade. I think that's a really cool color. Love it. So the next one, I went back into Jaclyn Hill, and inside of Jaclyn Hill there's this color called Buns. It's right up here. This kind of reminds me a lot of the color. It has a little bit of that similar tone. I'll tell you, like, some of the browns in here are not going to have like the exact same undertone, but I felt like the undertone was so close that once blended and applied and put underneath all of these other shadows, you're going to get a very similar look. So that is the closest I can find, and I do feel like the Jaclyn Hill palette had a lot of like the brownish tones, a lot of them, that you really don't have to jump out of Jaclyn Hill. So now, this was the part that got a little interesting for me. So now when I was looking at this color, I go, what was the palette that I remembered, a color that was so similar to this one? And I remembered the KKW Beauty Mario palette called Decade inside of the Mario palette. That's almost a white, but it goes a little cream. This reminded me of that whitish color that is inside of this brand new palette. Now, if it's lighter than this, if it's actually more white than this inside of the Sephora Pro, there's a super stark white. But I think it's a little bit more like this one. I think it's a little bit like an off-white. So that's why I went with this one. But when I pulled out this palette, I kind of went like, oh goodness, I see a few other shades that are coming in this palette, which was pretty interesting. So for the next one, this color Armenian is that beautiful gold. Like, this looks almost identical, guys. Like, almost identical when swatched and put on, that it looks so similar to me. Like, it's a really light gold color. This color is beautiful, and I feel like the one inside of the new palette, maybe even a tad bit lighter. This is probably one of my favorite colors. I don't feel like a lot of brands lately have released like champagne golds. I feel like everything is so yellow gold, and yellow gold is not a color that everybody wears that often. Like, these champagne golds are like so easy to use, and that's why I love this palette from KKW Beauty. This has been such an amazing palette. But this color right here, this reminds me so much of the one inside the Kylie Cosmetics one. I think that's a beautiful color. I own it, but I love it. Then looking at this one, the next one, 2008, is this color right here. It's like a silvery white. This reminds me a lot of the color inside of the new Kylie palette too. So when you swatch it, you can see it's like basically silver, but it's like a metallic-y silver. It reminds me so much of what's going on inside of this new palette. So I do feel like some of the tones got some inspiration from the Mario palette, especially when it came to those golds and white. This came around from here, and I do think that that was highly inspired by that palette. Who knows, maybe Kendall Jenner loves that palette. I wouldn't doubt it. It's fantastic. So the next one, I went into Jaclyn Hill again. So what I did was I jumped this color Butter right here, and now Butter to me was just a tad bit too brown. So I jumped into Creamsicle and put Creamsicle on top, and it gave it a little bit more of a brownie yellow twist, which is what I'm seeing inside the palette. So I do feel like you can create this color very easily. Brownie yellows are also not tones that I tend to use that often, so I'm not like, I probably wouldn't create that color, is what I'm trying to say. So the next color is beautiful, and I absolutely love it. When it comes to lime, I like lime when it's metallic. Inside of Huda Beauty, and this is the Emerald Obsession, there is this color right here, which is like a limeish green. It's the color that I have all over the lid that's like metallic. I love this color. This color is so beautiful. Now, I don't know about the formula in Kylie Cosmetics, but honestly, the formula of this little tiny Huda palette is so amazing. I would not buy the Kylie palette for this color because the color in here is insane. So it's a gorgeous color, and if you don't own it, it's definitely super cool, but I love the Huda one. The next color I actually found inside of Jaclyn Hill, and it's the color MFFO, and that's this one right here. It's kind of like a brown here. It kind of reminds me of this color. Like, I feel like this one was probably one of the ones that was giving me the hardest time to kind of match up perfectly. It's just not a color that I really need. I feel like this type of color, I see it a lot, you know? So the last one, I mean, this would be like the color that has to make this for me. And inside of the Huda Mini Nude Light, this one right here, there's this really pretty color that reminds me so much of it. It's this really nice pink. This pink here, this is my most pinky tone I own in my collection, I think. I don't own too many like real baby pinks, but this is like a little bit of like a baby pink. It has a little bit of a dustiness to it, so it's not like super in your face. It reminds me a lot of the tone I'm seeing here. I also have the Mini Retro that has a beautiful dusty pink that might be a little darker than the one in the new Kylie palette. So that is the palette, and those are the colors that I was able to find that I feel like will mimic this palette to a degree that when you apply it to your lids and you blend everything together, people will probably think you're wearing the Kylie palette. Those are the colors that I found in my collection. Now, I was able to find some cool color combinations by swatching these on my arms, and things that I'm probably going to remember, like next time that I want to do like a look with some greens. Maybe I'll jump into Morgan again, because I did think it was an interesting combination that I technically would not have done. So it is nice sometimes to see how people lay out color stories. However, for $42 US for me personally, this is not a palette that I really need. So I'm gonna make up my mind right now and just say I'm definitely not gonna pick this up. It's just not something I need right now. It's just not something I need. I feel like I have a lot of these tones, and the color story to me is not like making me wanna purchase it. And at this point in my collection, palettes just really need to make me want to purchase them. Like that I just feel like, wow, this is so different, or this is something that will become a go-to for me. And I am not gonna just buy stuff to say, hey, I made up my mind. Yes, that is not gonna happen. I'm going to buy things that I think I will use, or things that I just think is so cool, unique, and different. And I have to admit, guys, I do not think that things lately have been releasing that have made me feel that way. So this one is different. It has that aspect to it. I think that if you don't own these kind of colors, this could be very cool, because I do feel like if I didn't have the Sephora Pro, the editorial one, the one with all the colors, this may have maybe kind of made me more interested, because I might have been like, it would be interesting to have those kind of colors in my collection. But right now, at the point I'm at, it just doesn't make sense to me. Also, some of these colors, even though they're super, super cool and neon and fun and so fun to wear, I personally would probably not wear them. I might wear them for Instagram. I might wear them for every once in a blue moon for a cool eye look. It's just not my color story. So at the end of the day, $42 for this palette is just not for me. But if you like this color story, it is definitely different, and it might be really, really cool. So yeah, that is my thoughts, and that's where I'm gonna go with this. Let me know down below if you guys picked it up and if you guys do like it. If you guys are interested in it, I will link it down below. And yeah, so I'm still hoping that pretty soon there'll be something that makes me go, so we'll see. Thank you guys so much for watching, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys later.